All right. Oh, Ezra's back. Okay. So Ezra will do that. And
Thank
if
you,
Ezra
Ezra.
needs help, I will do that as well. So go ahead. It's all you, Therese.
Okay. So I had checked on the group chat thing for the retreat, and some people left some lovely comments. Thank you very much. But I didn't see any specific questions asking anything specifically. So if there's not anything coming up in the chat, I thought I would start with showing you my original art journal that I made when I was in that deep, dark pit of depression. So is there anything in the chat I should be aware of before I get into that?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. So when I started, I started with just one of these, sketchbooks, because as an artist, this is what I would use to draw thumbnail designs or practice sketching or make a color swatch, or if I wanted to see what does this red and this yellow, how do they mix up? This was what I used. This was like an exercise. This was like an exercise book. So this is what I gravitated towards because I was familiar with it and I was comfortable with it. It's about like half a sheet of paper. This doesn't have the dimensions, but anyway, it's about half a sheet of paper, half the size. So it was portable, it was handy, it was easy to use. Um, so this is my first page that I did. Let me come up here close too. And what I did is I just started going through, oh, great. I just started going through magazines I had and cutting out pictures that pulled at me. I didn't have a rhyme or reason, and I did a grid format because it was easy. I could cut things into squares and rectangles, and I didn't have to think, and I didn't have to make decisions. And I don't know if any of you have ever been, in a depression, but um, coming having to make a decision was about impossible for me. I could do normal everyday maintenance and normal everyday routine. At the time, my son was in early elementary school, so I did what I needed to do, to take care of him and take care of my family, but there wasn't any extra bandwidth. And so trying to be creative and make decisions and things like that just wasn't going to work for me. So squares were easy to cut. And I just simply, if I saw something I liked, I just simply cut it out. And as I would cut these images out, and I would find like little words I wanted to put in, then when I went back and looked at my page, I could see that I was starting to tell myself a story. Does that make sense? So I could start to see how these words and how these images were like little threads that were part of a bigger tapestry that was telling me a story. And it was my inner wisdom, my intuition that was choosing these items, these images. So here's another one. Again, a lot of boxes, a lot of rectangles, some words. Here I got fancy and cut a scallop, but really basic, right? Really basic. I was just looking for colors that appealed to me, feelings that appealed to me, things that made me feel more comfortable. It helped bring down my anxiety and my internal stress that I was feeling. Now I move on to another page, and this looks when I look at the contrast between the page I'm going to show you and those other 2 pages I showed you, it's very apparent to me that this is a very different page. So I'm still cutting out of magazines and cutting words out, and then I had some word stickers as well. But look at those diagonal stripes. Now, diagonals are very powerful and they have a lot of energy to them. There's nothing serene and calm about this page. And then I'm going to bring this out so I can read these words to you. So on the side of the page, I just collected a bunch of words that felt appropriate for what I was feeling at the time. Crazy life, distant, no rest, no vacancy, buried alive. I'll cry if I want to, time out, survival, as close to the edge as I can go. How much longer? Fragile, exhausted hearts, everyday life notes, imperfection, let go. So this is like, wow. Okay, so those first 2 pages were they were just kind of an intro. I was kind of finding my way. I was learning to trust my intuition. I was learning to trust the images that I was attracted to, pulled to, and not necessarily attracted to in terms of I liked them and thought they were pretty, but more in terms of they felt important and like they had some kind of secret message for me. Okay. And I believe this is all my inner wisdom talking to me, that these are messages I needed to hear. And so I was starting to come out of that numbness. There's nothing numb about this page. This page is very dynamic. And in the words, I remember making this page. I remember where I was. I remember putting those words down. I remember how powerful it felt to acknowledge kind of like this hopelessness that I was feeling. It's still, looking at it, I don't feel those things right now, but I remember them. It takes me right back to what was happening in my life at that time. So this is how I started, right? Okay, this is another grid page. This one is more soft and pretty, talking about things that are comforting to me, that make me feel good. This is monochromatic with a little bit of a complementary color. So this is all blues. And then there's a pop of this orange color coming through every now and again. And in terms of art, when you use mostly one color and then you jump to the opposite side of the color wheel and use that complement, that's what colors that are directly across from each other on a color wheel are called complements to each other. So if you have a lot of one color and then just a little bit of the color that's across on the color wheel, the complement, that makes a very powerful visual color harmony type of a page. So this is mostly blue, but there's a little bit of pops of that sort of an orangey brownish color. And then the words on this, there's only there was one set of words that came on an image that I cut out, but those words weren't important. But the words that I chose to put on here was terrain no one could find on a map. So I'm still feeling very lost here. Still feeling very lost. But how easy is this to do? This is just circles, right? This is just circles and colors cut out of a magazine. That's all this is. And the power is coming from your association with the symbology, with those messages, because our human brains are meaning-making machines. We want to have meaning. And if we don't know what the meaning is of something, we'll make it up, because that's just how our brains work. So you can use that to your advantage. When you make your art journaling pages, you're the one that gets to decide what these images mean. It's a conversation between you and your intuition, your inner wisdom, and your heart, right? Now, as a viewer, when you look at this page, you may experience something different than what I experienced creating this page. That's one of the powerful things about art is going to have a conversation with the viewer. It's going to have a conversation with the maker as it's being made. It's also going to have a conversation with the viewer who is looking at the artwork that's been created, right? So art really it's a dialogue that's happening. Okay, any questions so far? I'm kind of going, just going and going. All right. Okay, so then I flip over to another grid one. So for me, what I'm finding is these grid type collages are a space for me to rest. So I had that dynamic diagonal collage that was a lot of power, a lot of energy. And then I had the circles with the monochromatic with just the pops of the complementary color, just a little few pops of energy going in. And now I'm coming back to something that's more calming for me. So there's this sort of swing that happens, right? More grids, more grids. Okay, here is another version of a monochromatic. And so I found all kinds of pinks and I made sort of a kind of an ombre, right? Going from dark to light. And I just cut strips and then cut them in little squares. And then let's read the words on this one. Seeing past the negative and finding the positive. So pink is my favorite color. So now here I am in this art journal after several pages and spreads that I've done. And I'm noticing now I'm starting to find myself again, right? I'm coming back to a favorite color. I'm coming back to this phrase is acknowledging there's all that negative and there's positive as well. So I'm now at a place in my journey where I can see the polarity, right? I can see it's both and not either or, right? Because we have this huge capacity to hold all these emotions. And I think one of the things that often happens, and I think especially for women, is we are really trained and conditioned to only hold certain types of emotions and to not acknowledge or accept or portray emotions that aren't positive and happy and make other people feel good, right? So now I'm at the point where I'm acknowledging, yeah, there are these negative emotions that I'm feeling, and I'm starting to see that crack of light, right, coming in. So for me, when I go back and I look at this original art journal that I made, I can see my journey. I can see my journey where I'm way in the pit of depression. And then I can see how I'm starting to claw and climb my way out, right? And for me, this was the tool that made all the difference. So this is why I'm so passionate about art journaling, because for me, I do see it as a very accessible tool. This is just magazines and a glue stick and scissors, right? And a sketchbook. I mean, there's nothing fancy pants. I have lots of fancy stuff. I've got all those fancy art supplies. This is very, very simple and very, very approachable, right? Okay, any questions so far?
Mary asked, were you already an art teacher when you started the art journal?
Yes. I had already been teaching about 10 years. Yeah. And, one of the things that's funny about being an art teacher is the art I was doing was prototypes for lessons for what I was going to be teaching rather than making art for myself, right? And I have to say, the teacher part of me is more dominant than the artist part of me. I started out as a preschool teacher, taught preschool for several years. I moved into the corporate world and was working for a student exchange program, and I was teaching in their workshops that were getting American kids to go overseas, or for the foreign students that were over here. So teaching is just a real big part of who I am. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to shift. If you all are all good with having seen this, and now you've got a flavor, what I'd like to do is I'd like to shift into the art journal I'm working on currently. You guys all okay with that? So, and then I need someone to kind of keep track, because I will just keep going and going and going. I will just talk forever. So what I'm doing now, I have a word of the year. My word of the year is reveal. And so what I'm doing is I've got an art journal where I am coming up with journal prompts every week. And then I am responding to those journal prompts by making an art journal page. These ones, there was no journal prompt with these ones. I was really working completely intuitively in this art journal. So I wasn't going on, any kind of journaling questions or anything like that. I was just simply, cutting the images I felt pulled towards and gluing them down, and then putting words on there, and then realizing what the conversation was that was happening in the background of my art. Okay, but this one is, I'm going to call it more intentional. It's still very, very intuitive. And I am following journaling prompts, and then I am creating art journal pages based on the journaling prompt. So my word of the year is reveal. And so what I did here is I made what I call these inner wisdom cards. And it's basically a collage where I chose images that spoke to me about what my word reveal means to me. And so I put them on, this is kind of a bowling pin sort of shape. It's similar to those Russian nesting dolls. So it's a body shape, a paper doll shape, but it's not very specific. Okay. And so you'll see how very different this is. So with this page here, it's like a brainstorming page, and I'm writing down what the word reveal, what it's calling up for me, right? So how do I want to feel? How do I want my life to look? Those kinds of things. So it's a brainstorming page. Okay. Okay, so the journaling prompt for this one was, how do I want to feel by embodying my word? So it's much more directed. And there's not a right or wrong. They're just super different styles. Okay. So both are good. And then the same little shape, this will keep popping up every now and again. And I did a mandala shape drawing on it. And then I have some words and a dictionary definition. And then I did some journaling around the perimeter of this shape. This one here, this is mostly journaling, not a lot of image. The bottom says, again, my word, reveal, in this little doodly heart frame. And then this is some journaling about what was revealed to me after I had done a Zoom class. I was teaching in a Zoom class, and so after I was done teaching, I did some journaling about what that first Zoom class revealed to me. This next one is, who do you know that embodies your word of the year? What characteristics do you admire? So in this one, here's that journaling question, and I made a pocket out of an envelope, and then I have the same little shape again, so it's in various sizes. And then I made a little paper doll chain by putting these together with washi tape, right? And then folding them like an accordion. And I just chose different words that I felt that the person that I was thinking of, the characteristics that they had. Okay. On this one, I didn't write down what the journaling prompt was, but I just did some simple watercolor painting here. And then the quote is, and the time came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom, by Anais Nin. I'm probably butchering that name, so I apologize. And on this one, the journaling, I journaled on my page first, this direction, and then I came back and I added the background over it. So you can't even read my journaling anymore because this purple background here. And I made a little cluster and glued it on and put some sparkly bits on there. And then this one of my favorites, Rainbow Heart. And I have some journaling going on in the gaps of the heart. And then another one of those little doodly frame words. Okay, so this is the kind of journaling that I'm doing right now, currently. This is a journal I'm actively working in. So I want to talk about, I'm going to shift if you guys are all okay with it. So my presentation that's on today, there's a journaling prompt. If fear wasn't part of the equation, how would your life look different? And then writing about your fear. And then after you've written about your fear, you make a Milagro heart collage and put that over your journaling, and then you come back and you write again to the question, if fear wasn't part of the equation, how would your life look different? So you're acknowledging your fear. You're putting this collage over it that for me represents like a prayer or a wish or sending love, those kinds of feelings. And then with your response journaling after you've done that. And this journal only has 2 pages. Again, I've just gone back to my sketch journal. And so I did my journaling, I put my Milagro heart, and then I did my response journaling. So you could do a whole art journal that this is the whole theme of your art journal. I did my journaling, I did my Milagro heart on top, and then I did my response journaling. So that's another way. Okay. Another one that I'm working on, I am slowly getting this up onto YouTube. Each one of these, it's again this doll shape. Each one of these is a journal page on a binder ring. And each one of these pages, there's that Milagro heart again on top of the journaling. So each one of these pages is a expressive art journaling exercise. And I just simply punched a hole and slipped them on a binder ring. So that's also currently happening. So these two are the ones that I'm currently working on now. I have a tiny little one here that I made. This is about maybe 2 or 3 inches square. It's pretty tiny. And I started this one when my mom was dying. She was in hospice, and we knew she wasn't going to be living much longer. And so this one for me is all about transitions, about liminal space, that space between 2 portals. So I have a little, just tiny. And so during that time, I didn't have a lot of energy and I didn't have a lot of time. So having a tiny little art journal was very, very helpful for me. Just, a couple little things and boom, the page was done. I could get out some feelings. Okay. How are we doing? We doing okay?
Doing good. Mary had a question. She said, did you come up with the prompts yourself or did you find them somewhere?
Some of them I made up. A lot of them I found various places and then tweaked them to so that they spoke to me. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I would go online and Google journaling prompts, and these were not specifically for art journaling. I turned them into that. Does that help? Does that help? Okay. So this one I made actually for one of Monique and Christy's summits. Might have been a year ago. And this is Reconnecting with Your Inner Wisdom, 30 Days of Expressive Art Journaling. So there's 30 different expressive art journaling. There's that diagonal. Exercises in this book. It doesn't have to be 30 days in a row, but just there's 30 different ones. So lots of different ways of expressing yourself and making art that's meaningful and important and beautiful to you. Here's that grid. And it's okay to repeat things over and over again, because every time you make an expressive art journal page, even if it's the same design as one you've done before, you're in a different place on your journey, right? So it's not going to be the same, even if the structure of it is the same, even if the foundation of it is the same. Yeah, so that's something I like. So this is another one that's very similar to the one that I just showed you. So look at this one. This is just using watercolor and making little marks as a background, right? Making colorful marks as a background. Let's see what else I have. Well, this is an in progress. So this is made, we all know these, right? We all have these. So I've got a collage, and then I drew with a permanent black felt pen this Milagro heart on top of the collage. And then I went and This is called, some people call it a glaze, where you, what I did is I took a paint color, and then watered it down so that it was, translucent, but not completely transparent, so that it would still cover the background. Because this collage originally, there's collage underneath this paint here. So after I had drawn my heart shape, I went and painted over the background. Does that make sense? And here's another page that's just very simple again. Not a whole lot on it. Here's just some swatching I was doing. This has several backgrounds that are like this that I had prepared. And then this background here, I just made another one of those hearts on there. Another color swatching. This is representative of my inner artist child. This is my inner artist child, inner wisdom collage. Washi tape. Just kind of all kinds of stuff. And then what this has on here is this is sewn. I put this through my sewing machine. May put these ribbons here as part. They fold over. Again, this is just a swatch of like my watercolor pan. And so on this one, once I had it where I wanted it, I just fed it back and forth through my sewing machine. So anyway, these go on and on and on. Okay, here's another one of the collages where I'm trying to get this. So with the glare, you can see, this is just with a paint pen. I just outlined, that very simple Milagro heart. So I have several themes that pop up for me a lot of hearts, a lot of Milagro hearts, a lot of butterflies, a lot of birds, things with wings. And all of those are very symbolic for me. So I tend to use them over and over and over again in my art. And you may find that happens for you too. You may find that you're drawn to certain types of images and certain symbols, and that they become rich and layered with context and meaning for you. I'm trying to see that this one has a lot of not done pages. So I'm trying to see if I have anything in here. I think that one's good. Okay, what else do I got? So many art journals. All right, so I have a couple of art journals that are more painted and less mixed media and collage. And most of these pages started out as they had some kind of background thing on there already. They weren't just blank white pages. They had something that I could go create art on top of. So this is mostly painted. And I like to find quotes that speak to me and put them on my pages. Sometimes I like to find affirmations that speak to me. So this was fun. Let me pause for a minute. So there's this thing out there in the world called the 100-Day Project. And most years I start it. Most years I don't finish it, but this was one year that I finished it. And what I did is these were journaling cards from some kind of scrapbooking kit. And I had these left over and they were blank on one side. And so I thought, oh, I could draw on those. And so I decided I was going to draw 100 mandalas. And at this point, I had not been drawing mandalas before. It was a new thing for me. I'm trying to see if I can find my beginning. No, I can't. Here's kind of near the beginning. Okay, so I just started drawing mandalas, one every day. And on the back, I found, like in books, I'm a huge book nerd. I would find quotes and I would write them on the back. So this one says, how can I stop chasing perfection and start embracing my dreams right where I am? Okay, there's a good art journal quote, right? Let me read that one again, because this would be a great prompt to create a page from. How can I stop chasing perfection and start embracing my dreams right where I am? So there's just bunches and bunches. So one of the things that I do like doing is I do like repetition, and I like taking a deep dive into something that fascinates me. And so I just started drawing all these different mandalas, one a day. And I think I did like 150 of them. I really, really liked it. What's this one say? It wasn't until I accepted myself just as I was that I was free to change. That one's Carl Rogers. I didn't put down the first one. So a lot of my work is exploring my inner world, right? Exploring my beliefs, exploring my limiting beliefs, because I have a lot of them. I have a lot of beliefs that say, you can't do that. You're not good enough. You won't be able to succeed at that. And so this also gives me a way when I do something like this, where I have this collection that has these quotes, is it really helps strengthen my ability to bust those beliefs apart and to recognize that that's just a limiting belief. Just because I'm having that thought, just because I'm having that belief, doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's factual. It doesn't mean it's real. It's just something I made up that I stuck meaning on and thought it was important and thought it was real and thought it was truthful. But it doesn't mean it is. So this gives me a chance to really start questioning within myself. Are those beliefs really something I want to hold on to? Are they really serving me? Are they really letting me express myself and be a tool in my expressing myself and my teaching other people, so that those people can then go and explore their inner world and maybe bust out of a limiting belief that they're in, right? Because I really think that, I was given this gift of being artistic, and I was given this gift of being able to teach people. And then I don't want to say that depression was a gift, but if we're going to look at what are the gifts within that experience, not that the whole experience was a gift, but it's that both and, right? Having gone through that depression, that gives me a perspective and an experience that I really can be a more effective tool to help other people change and grow. Does that make sense? So this type of work helps me keep moving forward on the path, even when it's hard. Keep moving forward on the path, even when it's scary. Keep moving forward on the path, even when I think I don't have enough courage to keep moving forward. Right? Okay, so I got off on this little tangent here. Here's another one. Okay, this is This is one of those envelopes. There we go. Okay. With that, this is that metal clasp and tucked in here. I think I glued it in, but this is the flappy part, right? So I just used one of those little envelopes as a cover. I drew a little flower on there. These are clothing tags, old clothing tags that I painted on. And then these are those ones that you can purchase. These are the tiny little jewelry ones. I really love these. I use these a lot. If you don't have something like this, you can always take a tiny little rectangle of cardstock and punch a little hole and put your own string through it and make your own tiny little tag. You know, you can notch the corners if you want that tag look. Okay, so this one's more painting. More of the painting. And a lot of these papers just started out as background. This one has a leaf on it. It's hard to see though, because it's shimmery. They just started out as background color, kind of messy color. And then I kept going, right? And turned it into something else. So again, this book was made out of papers that already had some paint on them. And I think this one probably has quotes or affirmation type things. Let's see what this one is. This just has some cutout words from a book, several variations. And I like that with the music paper. Right? We get to be several variations, don't we? We don't have to be always the same. So, there's another one of those hearts. So you can see how I started with these mandalas, right? And then I moved into, when I started drawing these hearts, these are like my mandala shapes that are just going around the heart now, right? So I have a theme, right, going on. I've got this, and then I can see how this artwork led to my developing this other artwork. Okay, questions? Oh, here's a couple pages that are not, so this is like what my paper had on it, right? I was just doing paint experiments, and then I ended up ripping them to size and putting them in a book. So that one's another mandala, but so these were just like the experiment papers, and I just put them in a book. All right, questions. I am like just going and going.
We've got a couple of questions here. So Mary asked, would you consider releasing them to the public? I think she was talking about the prompts that you had edited or made up for yourself. And then there's another one, but you can answer that one first if you'd like.
Okay. I think you're referring to the prompts that were in, that I'm currently working in this art journal with. This is actually part of a course that I'm teaching right now called Artful Wadi, W-O-T-Y, which is Word of the Year. So I've collected 52, one for every week. So in this course, what we're doing is we're coming back to our word of the year over and over and over and over and over and over. So here it is May, and we're still working with this word that we chose, right? Some people have a couple of words, some people have phrases. Again, I'm not into art, police, and rules. So what that does is we choose a word or an intention or something like that for the year, because we either want to bring something into our life or we want to let go of something. We want something to shift, something to change. And for most people, we stop thinking about those intentions or that word or whatever sometime in February, right? By the end of February, we're not even paying attention anymore. And there's this part of our brain that filters what we put our attention onto. So it's like if you want to buy a new car, you've got a specific car. You've got a specific car you want. All of a sudden, you're going to start seeing that car everywhere, right? You didn't used to see it everywhere, but now that you want it, you're seeing it everywhere. That's because there's a part of our brain that's in charge of focusing our attention on something. So what I'm doing with this course is I'm hacking that part of our brain, and I'm saying, okay, if our brains naturally do that, then let's increase our winning potential on that, right? So let's take our word of the year and let's keep bringing our attention back, because then we're training our brain. This is important. We want to focus on this. We want to build a relationship with this word, and we want to start taking action so that this word supports us and it brings into our life what we want, or it enables us to let go what we don't want anymore. So that was like the idea behind this course. And so what we're doing is we're doing a Zoom every month where we do a creative project wrapped around our word. And then as a bonus, I came up with this journaling. And I thought, oh, rather than just going once a month and returning to our word, let's return to it every single week. And so all of the prompts that I came up with or changed and tweaked are geared for bringing your word back into your conscious awareness. Build that relationship. Let's keep that going. Let's keep that attention focused. So that's what the journal prompts are for. Is there for this course that I'm currently have going? Yeah. Okay. So so they're out there, but they're out there in a course. Okay, Ezra, was there another question?
There was another question. Holly asked a really good question that I relate to a lot. While I know I'm creative, I struggle to get started without direction, so it's hard to just sit down and art journal. Do you have any suggestions to help those of us that prefer to follow instructions over having a blank page of freedom to do anything? And then she added, I even struggle with those type of painting experiment papers and my gel plate. Can't seem to get them started.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say is accept yourself where you're at. And if where you're at right now is following a step-by-step or like I don't mean this in a derogatory way, like a paint by number type of approach where what you can do right now, where your capacity is right now, is to follow specific steps, except where you are. Have that be okay. Have that be enough. And if you want to grow and transition out of that, you'll get to a point where you feel more comfortable. If you let yourself be where you're at, you'll get to a point where you'll feel more comfortable. My guess is that you see where you're at and you don't like it, and so the inner critic starts beating you up. That would be my guess. You can speak to me whether that's true for you or not. I think that's very common. I think we compare ourselves to other people. We think we should be farther along right now. We think we should be able to do more than we're doing. We think we should be better at all this stuff because we've been doing it for a while. And we get very frustrated. And then we start being mean to ourselves. Our inner critic jumps in. I am going to, not as a plug, but it is a plug. I am going to say in the my presentation that went live today, Learning to Think Like an Artist while creating mixed media collage clusters, I talk a lot about befriending your inner critic because we all have it. We all do. I don't know, maybe there's someone out there that doesn't, but I think even Oprah has one. And if Oprah has an inner critic, then why can't I have an inner critic, right? I think it's something that's natural. I think it's definitely trained. It's definitely conditioned. But we can also treat that inner critic with kindness and compassion so that the inner critic doesn't feel as scared, because that's what the inner critic is trying to do. The inner critic is trying to keep you safe. Our one goal of our brain is to keep us alive, and the inner critic is trying to keep us alive. It's misguided, right? It's not going to harm me if I don't do this art journal page perfectly. It's not going to harm me, right? But our inner critic doesn't know that. Everything is life and death. Everything is safety. Everything is just trying to keep us going one more day, keep us safe one more day, keep us alive one more day. That's really the job. That's its job. That's its job. And it will do it over and over and over and over again. And so I think our job is to treat that inner critic like a scared little child. So how would you treat a scared little child? You know, how would you make them feel better? How would you help them calm down? How would you help them feel safer? That's how I approach it. That's how I approach it. Okay, I think I've totally gotten off the topic, and I probably haven't helped you with your question because I got on this little tangent. So in my presentation that's happening, that's on today, I go through the elements of design, the principles of design and the elements of design. And I walk you through how I'm making decisions on what color choices I'm making, what pieces of paper I'm choosing to glue down, why I'm choosing to put things in certain places. So I've really slowed the whole process down. And I've really tried to vocalize the thoughts that are happening in my head as I design. Now I do it much faster. It's like, right? So I've really slowed it down in this presentation. That might help you. Seeing something like that and hearing me struggle with my inner critic and how I talk to my inner critic, hearing me, how I'm choosing one piece of paper over another piece of paper. Maybe that would help. Maybe that would help. Is there anything else? Okay, I'm just seeing if I can take a look real quick. Okay. Okay. So Ezra stepped away, so that's fine. So let me take a look real quick. And then I've got, right, I have to find that spot in my glasses where I can read my computer screen. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you that feel like you need more direction, did anything I say resonate with you? I'll be very honest. I am not the teacher that is going to say, cut this piece of paper in this size and place it on this certain spot on your substrate. I'm not. Because what I really want to do is I want to bring, you already know. You don't know, you know. You don't know. You're afraid. You're afraid to do it wrong. And what I want to do is I want to help bring that inner wisdom that does know, that that part that can take a tiny little risk, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to like hold you gently and help you take another step. That's what I want to do. So I'm not going to say use pink here and use blue here, and if you're going to use red, it has to be alizarin crimson. I'm not going to do that, because what I want to do is I want to develop that artist that's already there, that inner artist child that's already there, that knows what you love, and bring that out. All right. Okay, so someone said, yes, I'm speaking to them. Yes, definitely. Yes. Okay, good. All right. We've got 1 minute. All right. 1 precious minute. Yeah. Okay. All right. So keep going. You can do it. I'll be a little cheerleader right now, right? Right? Accept yourself where you're at. Accept yourself where you're at. Be okay with that. I know it's hard. And I know it's scary to try new things. And it's just paper. And if you feel like your nice stuff is too precious, then paint on junk mail. That's what's so cool about this kind of stuff and all this junk journal stuff is, I know some of you do the fancy printed paper thingies, and I've got some fancy printed paper thingies too, but you can literally use junk. Use the packaging that came in your Amazon box yesterday, right? There's nothing precious about that. So you can make mistakes, and you can make a mess, and you can make ugly art, and it'll be just fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there's one thing here that's from Kelly that says, at Therese, see question. I don't know how I'm supposed to see a question. What was my aha moment? My aha moment for what? I don't understand that question. For getting on the path to where you are now. Do you mean from coming out of my depression? Is that what you mean by being on the path? Or do you mean like for teaching the way I'm teaching now? Oh, for getting out of depression. Okay. All right. So it's 2:01. Christy, is it okay if I go over just a couple minutes, or is there someone waiting? Okay, I'm going to talk. So I did not know I was depressed. I went over a year without knowing I was depressed. When I look back now, I can look back and say, yeah, I was already depressed. I was depressed for at least a year and had no clue. No clue, because I'm so high functioning. And I'm very goal oriented. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't mean that way, but if you want something done, you ask me, because I will make sure it gets done, because I am just like, I'm going to charge forward and I'm going to do it. And I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm not going to let go of it. Right. And so I was very high functioning in this depression that I was in. And it was, my aha moment was, there was a family gathering that happened. We had a new puppy. There were a bunch of people downstairs in our house. My daughter was home from college. She was getting ready to go back to college. And I was upstairs with this puppy, because this puppy was unruly and bothering people, right? So I was upstairs with the puppy, and I was just sobbing because my daughter was going to be leaving, and I wasn't with my daughter, right? I was with this puppy, and I'm sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And I went, maybe there's something more going on here than me just missing my daughter, right? That was my aha moment of realizing I was in depression. And then I just kept trying all these different things, which are the normal, regular tools, right? And I'm not trying to say that these tools are not good. They are, and different things work for different people. And they did help me a little bit, but it was not enough of a shift. And I think because I was already so creative, that was a natural place for me to go, was to tap back into my creativity and my own personal symbology, which is a form of communication, right? That's before we had written language, we had symbols, right? That's that, and we put meaning on that. That's how we, communicated and things like that. So, is this answering your question? Is this helping you? Okay. All right. All righty. What else? Okay, good, good. All right. What else? Oh, and I do want to say I didn't stop using all those traditional tools. I used those traditional tools and I added the art journaling as another layer. Does that make sense? Um, so so we all have to figure out, some things work for us and some things don't, and it's going to be different. For some person will say I swear by this, and another person will say I tried that, it didn't work for me at all. So we're not all the same. We don't all have the same path. Okay. All right, I'm doing a whole lot of blah blah blah. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I'm glad it was helpful. I hope you all feel inspired to go make art that calls to you. That's my wish.
Thank you so much, Therese. That was I was like enthralled. So I needed you to finish talking, so I could hear what you were saying. Okay.
Good. Thank you so much for having me and letting me share my very passionate, energy about all this.
It's really, really soothing. I just need to tell you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, I was just thinking too, like, remember when we first met?
Yeah. That was several years ago.
Yeah. Where we were both just in different places and stuff. It's
Yeah.
amazing how things unfold. And Ezra, the answer is yes. Sounds good. And I'll go ahead and take it now. If nobody has any more questions for Therese, we can stop holding her hostage now. No, I'm kidding. And I'll go ahead and do my Q&A. Does anybody, thank you so much, Therese.
Thank you.
Does anyone have questions about the my journal? Oh, hold on one second. I think I've got the wrong thing going here.
So you still have me pinned.
There we go. And I still have you pinned. I think that Corey, can you spotlight me?
Yeah. All right.
My hands, please. By Therese. All right, oh, I am. Okay. Yay, I can spotlight me myself. All right. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about, like, was anything confusing about the project? Stop this phone. This is actually the one that I did with you guys in the presentation. And I can show you how it's coming along. And if you have any questions, has anybody done this project yet? It is kind of a, oh, hang on. Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. Let's see. Great. All right. So if no one has any questions, I'll just go ahead and go through and show you where I'm at here. If you want, I can go through some of my others that are like this.